Hello, everybody. Welcome to the last call. I am Punk Rocky, and that is Gabe.
I'm Gabe.
Hope everybody's doing well. We have returned, as the title says, from sick leave. Uh, it was this time it was Gabe's turn to catch the winter bug. The last remnants. I'm surprised that you made it that long.
I went back and looked at my PTO from last year, and 1 week later exactly was when I caught COVID.
Yeah, the wife had mentioned to me, she's like, the last the last 7 years, 8 years, you've gotten sick like the same times every year. And I was like, yeah, that's since we've had the kids. It's when they start school and it's when Christmas comes around.
It's like you've got it's like you got like the perfect timetable just to be like, ah,
Mm.
yes, I know I'm going to be sick the third week of January.
It
Excellent.
it is slightly helpful and you can kind of plan for it. And it's one of those things where if it doesn't happen, you're not mad.
It's the perfect surprise at the end
Yeah,
of the day.
yeah. It's just like the only thing that sucks though is that when school starts around here, it's well, typically I believe it's the same, give or take a day across the nation, but
Mm-hmm.
it's usually mid August or so, and that's like also around the time of my birthday. So I've usually been sick on my birthday.
And not the fun kind of sick where you're like, yes, I will have another shot after I
Nah.
puke. Thank you.
I don't. I think the last time I was that like that, that was a stream many years ago. That was Mike Tyson. No, no, my bad. That was Asheville. Yeah, no, those might have been the Metal Gear days.
Oh,
Which I love that OG NES Metal Gear game.
oh yeah,
I played the what was it, the MSX or
MSX.
yeah, I Vox hooked me up with that. And in a lot of ways it is superior, but for some reason I just dig that NES one more. It's easier, maybe that's why.
Oh, I thought it was more difficult. Maybe have I have I been have I been doing life wrong the entire time? What
I
happened?
know I beat the only one as far as Metal Gear's concerned, I've only beaten the original NES one, Snake's Revenge, I did beat that one. And
That's a
then
tough one.
I beat disc one of Metal Gear Solid because I had issues transferring to disc two. So I never finished the game, but I did beat disc one, which is I think the very last thing that you do is the fight with the telepath kind of guy in the office.
Plug in your first controller into port 2 to trick him out.
Yeah, that was kind of a bitch to figure out on different hardware.
Hmm. Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
On safer hardware, yeah, you were using your backup file. I get it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it.
That's also where the problems inlaid with the transferring to disc 2, just particularly that title.
That makes sense. Hell, on I think it's the PSN version of Siphon Filter 2. Even you have like on the PS3 you still have to go into the menu and switch discs
Mm.
when it tells you to. I had a lot of difficulty getting the damn disc switch to work on that one because every time I would do it, it would either freeze or it would on the blank screen it would freeze or it would load and then stop. And I'm like, cool, because that's exactly how the old school PlayStations worked. They weren't built like tanks or anything.
The only thing that I miss, and I've noticed it on specifically for Final Fantasy 7, the original Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 8, because those were multi-disc games originally. But I've played the PSN version of Final Fantasy 7, and then I played the remastered 8. I use that term loosely, but um, but and I'm sure there's a way to see them, because I think I have seen them on another playthrough somewhere, but I could be wrong. But when you had to switch discs, there'd be like this cool like art image that would come up, like switch to disc, whatever, and it'd be this cool art picture of one of the characters or some shit. And I was like, the last time I played both of those games, I'm like, there was no need for that to switch discs, so I didn't see them. And I was like, oh yeah, I missed those. Hmm.
I feel like they should just leave them in there for
Like I think they are
preservation.
somewhere. You have to do something at that time too, like when, it's the whatever, but uh I feel like I've seen them some like in a, more modern time. But the last time I played both of those games last year, I didn't see them.
Eh, well, I mm, preservation of old stuff like that, like people won't get. Some people won't get what we're talking about switching discs, which is makes me almost as depressed as there are people that don't remember going to the video store to rent a video game and a movie on a weekend. That one still hits me in the soul in the worst way.
um so today I had a moment. I had a special moment. It's rare that this happens, but from time to time it does. Um, I've mentioned it before on the show. Whenever the last time that this happened, and I don't remember what it was. Oh no, now I remember. Well, okay. The last time I remember this happening, it wasn't while we were doing a show. It was just like I mentioned sharing the last time that this happened. Um, you ever have one of those moments where you go back to a movie you used to watch when you were really young? It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's got live action actors or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
then cut to like now, where you have all of this knowledge, just film knowledge and shit like that, but you completely forget about that movie, and then finally you're like, oh yeah, shit, let me go back to that. I haven't seen that. And then you watch it, and then you see like an actor that you just like love, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't even realize that was him because you didn't have the knowledge back then.
Yep.
I think that now the last time that this happened, and I'm gonna fuck up names because but you'll know who I'm talking about. Uh, the main dude from Reanimator.
Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs. I wanted to say West, but that's the character in the fucking movie.
He'll
Okay.
he'll always be Herbert
Yeah.
West to us.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, Combs. Yeah. So I used to watch The Frighteners all the time, and I had no idea that that was like. And then after all of the soaking of the knowledge, I eventually end up back at that movie. And I'm like, holy shit! Like I used to watch this dude all the time.
And you don't even realize he's the
Yeah.
crazy guy with the Uzi.
Now this one you may smack me for because this one's a lot more obvious. But for some reason, and it's because my mind is fixated on the current look of this actor, his aged look.
Sure.
But I just today, because I was listening, I think I was listening to Campia, and a fan sent in just like a random question about this movie, and they started talking about it, and they mentioned the villain of Die Hard 3, and I had no idea that that was fucking Irons. And I'm like, holy shit! I'm in the car waiting for my kid to come out, and they talk, and I'm like, my mind is exploding in the car.
It happens. I mean,
Because it's like that particular role. I mean, I don't know how old he was then versus now. Like, I don't, but I mean, I know it's been a minute. It's been a minute,
Ian,
and but I'm
I
just
just broke the mic stand. One
oh.
second. Shit.
What? You good?
Nothing like our return show when shit just breaks. Okay, so I've got to hold this
There you go. Just rock it old school.
because the whole damn thing just came apart. Hello.
but but uh but no, like it's just I remember watching that movie. That one I watched that one more than any other Die Hard when I was younger. Mainly because I think it was like newer at the time, so it was just on all the time.
It's not a bad movie either, though.
No,
Like,
no.
it arguably is as good, if not better, in some ways than the original. But the original is going to be king regardless.
Right. Um, but like he just like I'm just going from that character to like his version of Alfred, you know? And I'm like once I started the gears started turning and thinking about the way that they look, I'm like, son of a bitch.
You know what? I can see that though. I mean, I'm trying to think of another example like this that's so, you know, head slapping. But I'm distracted by the fact that I just broke my mic stand by looking at it. So,
That's some skill.
oh God, who knew? Um, oh, and this one I should probably be smacked for because it wasn't it wasn't when I was in my 20s or anything, but it was way later than it should have been. Did not realize that Richard Crenna was playing this Colonel Troutman character in Hot Shots Part 2. He was making fun of himself from the Rambo movies. Did not realize that until way later that it was the same guy because I was such a big fan of Wrongfully Accused anyway. I was like, I made that connection. I was like, oh, that's the dude from Rambo. But when I watched Hot Shots, he's on screen the whole damn movie, and it never like clicked until I think I was like 17 or 18, and I was like, oh, I need help because that's pretty obvious.
Right. No, but that's pretty much in line with what happened to me, like from time to time. But it's like you want to get slapped for it, but you know, like I said, I'm like I kind of enjoy having those revelations. You know, I'm just like as dumb as they are sometimes, and I'm like I should have noticed that a long time ago. But like I said, it's and like I probably watched that movie like 3 or 4 times in the last couple. Like we've put it on, I'm sure at least once or twice.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think at
So
least once or twice.
yeah. So I'm like I that's one of the few that I probably like I said I watched that one the most, so I know that movie a lot better than the original. Although I know the shit out of the original too, of course.
Of
But
course.
uh like I have more of a fondness for the third one. Plus, Samuel Jackson's just fucking badass.
You get you get the you get the Alan Rickman family as a villain. Plus, you get Sam Jackson. Plus, you get a movie that's fast paced because it doesn't take place in a single building now. It takes place over an entire city. That's a that's a good way of doing a sequel. And they brought back John McTiernan for it.
Mm.
So, double, triple, quad win, whatever.
Hmm. So that was my fun like holy shit moment today. Um, now since the last show, we have gotten a new Scream trailer. Uh, now for as much as that franchise has been played by us, and I I just I can't. It's not that I have nothing against it. I just for some reason I've seen 3 and 4, but I don't remember it. I only really hardcore remember 1 and 2. I have a fondness for them. So my knowledge of the franchise as a whole kind of really stops at 2. I know some things here and there, but
Mm-hmm.
now there were 2 things I noticed about this trailer, which now so people understand. Now I've watched this trailer a couple times. Gabe, I believe you said you've not watched the trailer, but on purpose.
On purpose, yes. I
Yes.
avoided it on purpose.
Okay. Now, I'm only going to mention these two things, but like I believe you said, a lot of it's been spoiled for you anyway.
Another reason why I haven't watched the
Yeah,
trailer.
you
Yeah.
don't need to. The mental art is better. Um, but no, the viciousness of it, like, and I don't mean, like I said, I don't mean this in a bad way. Like I was telling Gabe earlier, I'm like, it was one of those situations where I'm watching the trailer and it literally just like stopped me in my tracks, not like in an offended way or like, oh, like this doesn't make sense. It was just like that that imagery of just him not giving a fuck in the convenience store with the shotgun. Just, I mean, to be fair, I mean that shit happens every day. But given the context of the movie series, like I said, I was saying I'm like that's actually something that you want your horror movie to do is when people watch it, they're like, "Holy shit." You want them to kind of get stopped in their tracks. I guess that's a good thing, right?
You're playing back to what I said last, or God, that was 2 weeks ago. That Argento quote about not shooting people on screen because people don't
Oh
know how
yeah.
it feels. But not everybody has been a victim of violent crime, but you hear about it. If you've ever grown up in a small town, you probably have heard about it. If you grew up in a big city, you turn on the news, there you go. It happens every day. That is innovative for the franchise alone just because that's bringing Scream into the real world again, like the first movie did when it was already based off of the
It's going
Amityville Ripper
the whole meta route. Just this is like
again.
the next level of 3D chess or 4D chess or
We're
whatever it
on
is.
5D chess now, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Um so I was quite impressed by that. Just only in the sense where I'm just like I mean literally it's a line in the trailer where I'm like I've not seen a ghost face like this before and he's like I'm not like any other one. Literally what he fucking says. But based on that trailer so far, I'm like, okay. Now, there was something else I noticed. Now, I don't know if this is just me. But there was something I kind of noticed, and it's like I said, it's the only reason I wish you would have seen the trailer, but again, I understand why. But there's a moment in it where a part of me thought, and I'm like, are they are they going the same route as Halloween with the cult? And I was like, because I'm like sitting here and I'm like this feels different, and I'm not saying in a bad way, but I'm like there's some peripheral messaging that I may be misinterpreting, but at the same time, I'm like this feels familiar. And then there was like there's one scene in the trailer, and like I said, it's one of those things where in the trailer there's not really a whole lot of context to go off of it, but there is kind of like a showroom setting where it has what I believe to be that. I don't think they actually say it, but it looks like it's every single actual Ghostface costume that each killer wore, like kind of like in a museum style presentation on mannequins. Like that's the one from the two dudes from one. This is the one from two. The different ones. And I'm just sitting here and I'm like, well, they're not gonna fucking just make like a national museum like that. So I'm like, this has got to be in somebody's fucking basement, like some cult warehouse.
The Cult of Ghostface.
Yeah, that's what. There was a part of me where I'm like, are they going this route? Are they going this route?
Well, it was hinted at in the fifth one.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask because, like I said, my hardcore knowledge of it really stops at two. Like so
They,
okay,
I mean, if you because we tore it apart on the Fright Fest Theater podcast about how the movie basically ripped all of the, not to use the term lightly, but the Reddit neckbeards, because they even mentioned, I think, Reddit specifically. Um, they rip them apart for being these overzealous fans that think that they can do it better, and they will go to any length to prove it. And I think the one of the killers even mentioned it, that the fan base was so rabid over how shitty the last Stab movie was, that they were all willing to put things into their own hands. So the Cult of Ghostface, this might be the first Scream movie where you have more than two killers. This might be it could be like the movie Clue. You could have like everybody on the damn poster killed somebody by the end of it type deal, and that would be fine too. They've already done just one killer once, and that's fine. But I would like maybe that'll be the maybe that'll be the meta for it. Will be it's taking place in New York where violent crime can happen to anybody, and it could happen from anybody. So you'll have two, three, four, five killers maybe by the end of it. Hmm.
As long as like I got, I would be fine with that. But I just had a haunting flash in my mind, and I don't like it. And I'm like, as long I'm fine if there's like if you're gonna have like a group type thing, but don't. There's a part of me that feels like this could be used in a metaphor way to shit on like the trope of like the hardcore fan that bitches about everything online. Like the group of killers is the people who nitpick and think that they know everything and everybody else is shit. You know what I mean?
Which they kind of did with the last one already.
Okay, god damn it.
But I mean, if that's the case, though, Scream, I think I fixed it.
There you go.
Scream, because it was picking up every time I was holding it anyway. Um, Scream movies always like to be on the current thing, and I mean, this was uh, on my viewpoint, a tedious argument that happened between uh, some others in our friend group about the new poster that is the one with the Empire State Building in the background, the ghost face draped over it. It's it's an okay poster. But that is the new style of posters. And all Scream movies have always had to present all of the characters on it because it's showing you, anybody on this poster could actually be the killer, just so you know. But
let me look at that real quick, just because there's been a discussion about another franchise's posters too, and I want to see if they fucking
no,
do the same shit.
but it's the Avengers poster. It's the same
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of deal.
Okay, that's literally the franchise I was talking about. Yeah.
Um, and I don't like it because, well, I don't I don't particularly think that they're being all that innovative, but
There it is. Yeah.
some people vehemently dislike it. Some people think it's fine. I mean,
You're talking about the poster?
yeah,
Well, here's my thing, because the conversations that I've been listening to lately revolving around the Marvel posters, where it's pretty much just like a face pyramid of everybody in the movie.
yeah,
Now, the one thing that I think a lot of people overlook or don't pay attention to, and that's fine because this is like contract shit. Like, the average person's not supposed to pay attention to this shit. But most of the time, if not every time, uh, contracts with actors and actresses and shit, it's not just pertaining to the movie. Like, there's marketing involved and stuff like that. And it's like, you're selling their name. So, of course, you got to be on the poster. Like I guarantee you that there's arguments that go down, not saying between actors themselves, but at least their handlers about like which actor gets, like, how much bigger this actor gets to be than the other on the poster. Shit like that.
yeah,
So that's all. What the problem is a lack of creativity on the actual marketing department, where it's just kind of like, oh, fuck it. And to be fair, maybe their hands are tied because of the situation with the contracts and whatnot. But
sure,
uh, the solution that I've heard, or at least not so much solution, I don't want to act like there's a problem, but the thing that I've heard a lot of people talking about it, and it's something that once I heard it, I'm like, I don't understand why the fuck they didn't do this to begin with anyway. This will only help the Marvel section. This won't help Scream, but comics are known to have variant covers due to face pyramid poster, but then have an actual comic book artist do comic book art creative fucking poster. Sell that shit.
Well, they have the map poster. They have the I Heart New York poster, which is a great callback to Jason Takes Manhattan. It was the best part of that marketing campaign, I think, was the Jason stabbing through it. You have alternate. You have alternate poster. That's not a new thing. That has been around
Yeah,
forever. And you know what? If this is the final poster, it comes down to what's fashionable with current marketing, which
yeah.
is why. Do you remember? Do you remember E3 when Fallout 4 got announced and everybody was all hyped about it because we were expecting an announcement about the game, but not that the game was going to come out 2 months after the announcement,
Oh
or
shit.
two
Okay.
or 3 months.
That was a hot minute ago, but I vaguely okay.
So when that happened, that was the first time I've ever seen attention drawn to the fact that video game marketing had gone to shotgun marketing because they realized that if somebody was waiting long enough for something, they didn't have to advertise it for a year or more, saying that this was in production. You can show up at an award show in July and say, my game will be out in November. Here's all the pre order information and all the goodies you can get with it. And you're not spending, you know, double the budget to make good marketing at that point because you only have to market it for 3 months. Now, granted, you're going to market it heavy during those 3 months, but you're going to do it that way. This is the same sort of deal, I feel like, where you have this final poster on here and the final teaser to lead up into it because you're trying to garner hype for it. But like the video game shotgun marketing that happened, every not every, but I would say most video game companies after that Fallout 4 announcement happened, I started noticing they're announcing the games 3 to 4 months before they come out now because they realize I don't have to market it as far. Resident Evil's been an exception because Capcom always stays quiet with a lot of their projects anyway, but even they, were like, Resident Evil 4 is going to be out in March. And, I think there was 4 or 5 months between that announcement. So it's not like that has to be the last end all be all. You can have any different poster, and I guarantee you that some of the smaller theaters might not even use that one because the press kits that they get are probably going to have the road map or the subway map and all of that. But this one is what the current marketing thing is and what is recognizable, the Avengers posters.
Yeah.
And people are going to notice that. I'm looking at it right now and I'm still like, I don't hate it.
Yeah,
It's
no.
generic, but it's generic because everybody's doing those posters
Yeah.
now because of what was making the most money at the time.
The other thing that I think is obvious too, and most smart marketing teams already count on this, but part of the reason I think the shotgun method works so much better is because you've got you've got people like us where it's just like if we even hear a rumbling of something that we're interested in is being talked about somewhere else, we will be the hype. They don't need something until they're ready.
You don't need street teams anymore.
Yeah. So it's like you just use the internet. Let the speculators speculate, drum up the hype for you, and then even better, pretty much what Marvel does is just like, hey, we're putting out a trailer for this on this date. So then you've already got like everybody's like, all right, I'm gonna watch that shit.
Well,
And then you basically get a teaser, which is just like a minute, if that, and then you get the big trailer, and that's it. Where you don't need to make 3 or 4 different trailers now. I mean, if it's going to be a big epic thing, maybe you do that, but uh, you don't really have to at this point.
and to go back to what we talked about 2 weeks ago. Uh, Metal Gear Solid 5 with the New Order Elegia trailer, the horror trailer. What we kind of refer to it as around here now because it made the game look like it was going to be a horror game, and the song didn't help. But that that alone was just a mix of gameplay footage and cutscenes that they put a very cool track over, and people's minds went crazy. I remember on one of the on one of the Metal Gear conspiracy theory threads about the game, there were people over analyzing frame by frame that trailer, and it's like that kind of rabid fan base, which is what Scream 5 was about. And see, it all comes back around. They had us do the marketing for them, and that's the smart way to do it. You garner hype by just doing little things like that. Frankly, with the whole trailer thing, instead of doing one long 3-minute trailer, maybe break those down into 45-second teaser trailers.
Yeah.
And that way you're not getting a complete image there and only one little thing. Stuff like that. Different styles of marketing again, but at the end of the day, what's the end result? We're sitting here talking about it. Everyone on the internet's talking about it. Love the poster or hate the poster. Guess what?
Getting talked about.
it's still getting mentions. That's why I follow Barstool Sports on Instagram, and they post all the non-sports related shit, and you see people in the comments saying, I'm unfollowing because this is not sports. I hate what this site's become. And it's like, because you're posting this, you're putting interactions on it, and they're going to keep posting that stuff until you stop and they realize what direction to take the company in. It's the same sort of deal with movies and trailers and everything.
Yeah, I agree. And well, that's what I was trying to remember. So like the best example I can see right now is, I believe there's been only two. I wasn't gonna say anything.
I just realized my Jax, stop.
I'm sure that's TOS somewhere.
Am I breaking toss at this point? I don't know.
But no, the recently, there you go, is the upcoming Friday the 13th show. I think we've only gotten like two little promotional images, not saying anything. Like, there's no act. It's not. It's just art. that the fact that it's even happening, but people are going hog wild and just fucking talking about it.
and I think one of them isn't even official art.
Yeah,
it's fan art that's getting passed around as real art, which happens again far too often. Because I'm still waiting on that Nightmare on Elm Street movie from 2017 that they said he was going to meet Chucky. Interesting, never happened.
But we shall see what happens with that. I liked that trailer. It sparked some questions, and that's what you want a trailer to do. Now
you should walk away with. I was just gonna say, I think, and teaser trailers are the best at it. That's why I like. I think we've talked about it before. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 had the Excalibur trailer where Leatherface is standing by the lake. Yeah. The chainsaw flies out of the water, and he grabs it.
The gimmicky trailers.
It's a gimmicky teaser, but at the same time, am I going to go see that movie?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, the trailer tries to make it look like a horror movie, but even then you can tell it's kind of funny. Hell yes, I'm going to go see that one. And I don't know why Texas Chainsaw Massacre seems to be the best example for this, but they get it right. Even when they get it wrong, they get it right at the end of the day, it feels like.
They always seem to drum up interest, and then the actual movie comes out. And then they're like, you take it for what it is. Some are better than others, but it always seems to be that way, where I'm like, I've never really seen a franchise where, like, no matter what, whether you liked or hated the previous one that they've done, like, you walk away from it and you're like, fuck that. But then if they start talking about a new one, you get it. Shit. It's
well, even after the last one, which I know was not universally hated. It was actually it was divided from what I remember. I didn't hate it
I
because
didn't
it
hate
was.
it. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it.
You know what it reminded me of? This is gonna sound stupid. Just bear with me. Doom, the game,
Okay.
because the OG on DOS, all of that. It reminded me of that because unless you had the manual, you didn't really get the story of Doom. A lot of people I know just pick up Doom and play it because they got it on Steam or whatever. It was a dumb movie. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the new one, was a dumb movie where people who you didn't like got killed by Leatherface, who you were rooting for the entire time because you were like, these people are insufferable and I hope bad things happen to them.
Yeah,
And guess what?
they
If you
do.
went into it with that mindset, exactly, you got what you wanted. And I walked away from it like,
that
that wasn't
was
great, but it was fun.
that was the only real bit. Like I like the idea of like old man Leatherface. I do,
Mm-hmm.
but that was my main takeaway from it was regardless if this was a good movie or not. And I'm like, if we're gonna compare this last one to the original, and I'm like, well, I'm not saying that the majority of the cast in the original were like all great people, like they all had their quirks, but I really fucking hated that wheelchair dude. Like I have never wished horrible things upon a disabled person in my life other than this character. And
I,
that, to be fair, this new one, he gave me a whole busload of wheelchair guys.
it it did, and you know
So
what?
it stayed true in a weird way.
And I think, and this might sound pretentious, and it is what it is. But the people who were disappointed by the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie held the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in some sort of like Apocalypse Now award winning regard. And I'm like,
It's never been that.
it's never been that. Even the original, which is, that's Joe Bob's like prime example of what a Grindhouse movie should be. Like, a lot of people say that it's an underrated film, and I find that hard to believe because I think it's got the merits, even though I think the second one is better. I get it. It's a low budget production made by a bunch of hippies in Texas that you don't know the exact amount of money it made because the movie was made by the mob, by the Piranha Brothers, which is still, that's a whole different story altogether. But Piranha Brothers, sorry, they called them the Piranha Brothers if you couldn't guess why. But um, you know, it was never high art. It was sleazy in the best way possible, and we love it for it. But don't go acting like Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation doesn't exist with Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey to the point where one of them refuses to put it on their own filmography, and the other one's like, "Hell yeah, baby, I put that on there." That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was never high art. It's probably never gonna be high art, but we don't want it to be high art. We want it to be exactly what you get with a title, a Chainsaw Massacre in Texas. Whew.
Now, we did not since we did not do a show last week, we I didn't get to talk about it, but that's actually kind of good because it's good to get two episodes deep. But since the last time we gathered, The Last of Us has started
Uh-huh.
on the HBOs. And I'm having an interesting time with this show, sir. Um this was something that when they first announced it, like even before cast, just the fact that they were gonna move forward with and do it, uh I was against it. Not because like I dislike it or because I like it. I just kind of felt like you're going for low-hanging fruit, but I don't mean that in a negative way. Where it's just like, of course you're gonna do that. Like that's gonna make money if done right.
If done
Absolutely,
right.
if done right. Um, so like to me, I'm like, there's like a million and one different things I can think of that I would rather have seen done than The Last of Us. And again, that's not me knocking on The Last of Us by any means. Um, Now, then they announced Pedro, and I was just like, oh, I think the term I used before the show was like you're teeing up a fuck up. And I'm just sitting here and I'm like, oh no, because before going into this, everybody's been all over this man like in a big bad way. And I'm not saying it's undeserving, but I didn't see it. All right, like because these were my main examples of this man. All right, there was there was him in Game of Thrones for like a few episodes, if I remember correctly,
He was
and
very
then
good in it.
and then he fucking get all I really remember is him getting his head smashed in. And this is never mind. I'm not even gonna say that joke. I'm not even gonna say that joke. But anyway, I'll tell you later. Anyway, he gets his head crushed in, and then he's gone. But that was like early seasons, and like so much crazy shit happens in that show way after him, to where he's just a passing thought, like at best. If you watch the show, like that. Now and then everyone's like, oh, he's Mandalorian, he's Mando, and I'm like, it's a dude in a suit with a mask the whole time. You don't really see the man act. You see him walk around. And I'm just like, and I'm like, and I'm not, I mean, for all I know, that's not even him in the suit. I believe it is, because I believe they've gone out of their way to say it is. But,
Yeah.
uh, I'm like, he could just be fucking voice phoning this shit in. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that as a bad thing against him. I'm just saying, like, when you're a masked character primarily, it's kind of fucking up how I rate your acting.
It's tough because the
Well,
only the best example of someone in a mask acting is Tom Hardy in The Dark Knight Rises.
or Kane Hodder.
Or well, that's an I would count that as a
There's physical.
as
That's a physical thing. He doesn't actually talk, so there's
right. That's more what I'm getting to because and Kane Hodder acts with his eyes too. But I bring up Tom Hardy because in Dark Knight Rises, a lot of emotion is conveyed just by the top half of his face, and if he had won an award for that, it would have been awesome. But he didn't. Most people couldn't get over the fact that you couldn't understand him. And that's okay. But Mandalorian's different because you can't even see his eyes, and that
yeah.
and that is a little bit difficult to say that his acting is great until the mask comes off, I guess.
But it's like what, less than a minute, and I don't even know if he might even say like one sentence at most. I don't even really remember. It's been a hot minute,
I
but
think it mirrors the amount of screen time as unmasked Vader in Return of the Jedi.
yeah, exactly. Um, and then the only other thing that I have to go off of is Wonder Woman 84, and fuck, like that's not his fault. That's not his fault. I'm not putting that movie on him. I'm not even putting that movie on Gal Gadot. I'm not putting that movie on anybody except for the people that made the movie. The actors did the best they could with what they had. All right. So I'm not gonna get into that mess, but that was an awful fucking movie. That was beyond terrible in my eyes. And I loved the first one. The first one was amazing. Um,
Did you see the Kingsman sequel?
Kingsman sequel. I don't think so.
He's in that,
Oh
and
shit.
he actually,
That's like the
it,
badass one with all the fighting and shit, right?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I saw the first one because doesn't that one have like a badass church scene in it?
much like the John Woo's The Killer. Yes, it has a
Okay.
badass church
Okay.
scene.
All right. I've seen
Uh,
that one. I've not seen the sequel.
Yeah, the sequel, I won't spoil it. It is worth watching. A lot of people said it was a letdown compared to the first one. I thought it was fine. I mean, you kind of get what you pay for with a movie about secret spies drinking scotch and wearing nice suits. But, yeah, he plays as one of the American version of the Kingsmen. I can't remember what their name is, but he does a very good job in a complex sort of character for that kind of thing. So I had that to go off of whenever he gets
Mm,
casted on stuff, and I was like, okay, I would like to see him get more goods. But it is the Mandalorian for being a great show. It is not the best skill of acting
yeah,
or the best testament to acting though, because of the
yeah.
face shield.
Now, with all that, that's my main stuff that I had going off the guy. Now, like I said, I don't think he's a bad actor. It's just that everybody is just like all about him, and I'm only thinking of those three roles, and I'm like, you really don't have a whole lot to go off of in my book.
Mm-hmm.
I watched these two episodes that are out so far. I fucking see it. I've seen the light. I've seen the Pedro light. This man is amazing. Like he literally like just the way that he act like talks, how he delivers his lines, how he says a million fucking things with his just a facial expression. Without even actual dialogue, just a look. He can say a million things. And I'm like, okay, I'm on board. So I was like, we cleared that hurdle. Now, as far as what's her name? Bella Ramsey? I always feel weird saying her name because like I relate that I think because of her last name to the fucking asshole character in Game of Thrones of which she was in. So I always feel like when I say her real name that that's her character name. But um of course again now to be fair that happens her involvement her like big things in Game of Thrones that everybody like really championed behind like when she fucking had her fight with the giant and everything. um a lot of that shit happens later on seasons, so she's got that going for her. That's like her prime shit was happening mainly during like the last bit of good shit that show had before we got into anyway.
Fair.
Yeah, but so I really had no opinion of her. I'm just like, I mean, like, hey, I know she can act. So I mean, like, the only person there was only one person that I would say uh would fill that role better. But I believe that that isn't really an option. Uh, what I don't know. This isn't me being a dick. I just literally don't know because I don't follow up with it. But am I correct in thinking that what's her name? Well, it was her. Something Page, and then it's now Elliot Page, I think it is. She was the Juno girl.
Oh yeah. Uh.
Ellen Page? Was it Ellen? I feel like
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But then
Um.
oh yeah, and then but now different. And that's fine. Nothing. But
And she was
uh
allegedly who they originally based
right,
Ellie
like
off
if
of on the
like
show.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know if she got pissed off about that or not. I feel like she might have, but I could be totally wrong on that and she didn't care. But
Even though if you look at Ashley Lawrence and how she looks compared to uh, the original girl from The Last of Us, they do look very similar. So I can kind of see why, because that was yes. Uh, Beyond Two Souls came out at the same time, and she had a choice to work on either one of them, and she went with Two Souls.
mm,
I think was what it was. Yeah.
but I for varying degrees that's not really an option for this role. So I mean, like, but like I said, I mean, I'm not saying it's that or bust, but them throwing her on there, I mean, like, I did not give a shit. Apparently, there was a small group of people that were really pissed off about it, but there's always a small group of people that get pissed off about everything. I guarantee you, you cure cancer, there's going to be a small group of people that are going to fucking complain about it. That
People
aren't
will get
just
pissed off about anything.
yeah, and they won't just be pharmaceutical reps. Sorry, I thought this was the meeting at the docks. Get those mixed up. That's tomorrow. Anyway, no, but now as far as appreciating game to show, Now I have to say, and I believe I have mentioned before, I have not played the game. Now, I did play the opening, which was the majority of the first episode. And if you watch the first episode and you know my weird rules about certain things, you understand why I immediately was just like, nope. Because I was in a weird mood at the time. I think there was some shit going on family wise. So I was a little extra sensitive at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, I'm like, this is not the time to venture those ideas into my head because I'm not going to handle it well. So that's where I stopped. Now I watched the first episode and I thought it was amazing. Now I'm in a unique position where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pick this game up again because like I know what to expect at least in that part now. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not gonna be a big deal. Um, so I'm kind of playing the game along with the show. Like I don't go further than the episodes generally, give or take, especially if there's like a small difference or some shit. So I'm kind of experiencing both for the first time. And it's really cool because, like I said, they do a lot of like literal shot for shot comparisons, and it's like I can see all of that shit. I'm like, God damn, they're paying attention. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
It's in good hands. Finally, an adaptation is in good hands.
Yes. Um. Now, and we were talking about this earlier. Uh, the main, I think the main problem because there's the whole. I mean, it's a joke. Not to say that we've never had anything good, but the whole curse of the video game movie, where like it may sound good on paper, but they never deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe that Mario was the first one. Was it? I find it hard to believe that Mario might have been the literal first one, but even if it was or wasn't, that's the first real big one.
That is the first one, 1993.
And personal feelings aside, because I kind of like the movie.
There
It's
are worse movies out
there
there.
are worse movies. Now, if I'm gonna sit there and go, okay, nitpick what lore of Mario. This was before, you know, Mario really had a whole lot of lore. Not to say that there wasn't any at all, but I mean, what'd you say it was? 91,
Three.
93? Okay, so if I'm give or take a year or so, I believe really where we're at with Mario is the Super Nintendo one, which did expand a lot. That's right, because we had Yoshi, and then it feels like they shoehorned Yoshi in at the end of that movie. Um, they had like they had like a leftover animatronic from Jurassic Park that they weren't gonna use. Like, here you go. um, but so I mean, there's really you really do have to fill in a lot of shit. Um, but that was the thing, and that's what I was trying to mention is that there's a certain magic that comes from the gameplay itself that you
Mm-hmm.
can't replicate in a movie or a show because it's not an actual game, it's just visual. So you have to do something to supplement the gameplay magic. It doesn't need to be actual gameplay. You just need to do something that supplements the magic, or else you're going to just have something and there's a lot that's it's just going to feel like there's something missing. And I don't think the majority of our current video or previous video game movies or anything like that has really ever taken that into consideration. The fact that you got one of the guys that made the game as like the head for one of the head people like working on this show, that fucking helps because they're
Yeah.
actually doing that. They're 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 figuring out ways to supplement certain things and like they I listen to the podcasts after every episode or whatever, so like where it's like them talking about the decisions that they made and everything, and they're specifically talking about like, all right, well, like we can't have them just running around like doing this like you do in the game, so we have to, in order like they know that that is a part of the game. So they have to figure out a way to give you that same thing, but not give it to you that way because that would never work as a show. You know, they're taking it into consider like, okay, what can we do? As opposed to just like, oh, well, yeah, it's a show. We're not going to do that. Fucking, let's move on. You know what I mean? That's been the motto before. Here, they're actually like, well, no, this is something. We need to not.
I might be being a negative Nancy here about it. I don't know, but I feel like certain projects are going to be doomed from the start, though. And I mean, taking out the gameplay portion of it or finding a way to supplement it for the screen, having a mini series, like I was talking about before the show, is the best way to do it because
Yeah,
you give yourself an allotment of time. Like I'm sitting over here looking at the list of upcoming video game adaptation movies. Gran Turismo, which is basically probably just going to be Top Gear the movie, and I'm okay with that. Comes out August 11th of this year. Okay,
yeah.
sure.
That one's weird, and like the only thing I can think of is like you're gonna do like crazy like how they did shit with the new Top Gun, how they did like the filming of the planes and shit. Like you're just gonna do that with cars. And
And I will go
I'm
watch
not
it.
knocking that. I'm just saying.
But think about this: Death Stranding as a movie, a 45-hour game as a probably 2-hour movie. Probably not going to work out the best. That story was pretty complex. Although I'm remembering the gameplay was building roads and delivering. It was Fetch Quest City. You don't want to watch that on screen, but if you get to the meat and potatoes of it and you have enough to supplement, that might work. Untitled Duke Nukem film. Okay, that should be easy.
that
That's just an 80s action movie.
that's a movie I feel that should have come out a couple of years ago.
20.
But I don't even that's gonna be a whole discussion in and of itself. It's like who do you get to be Duke Nukem?
Who do you get to have balls of steel?
Steel.
Um,
But yeah, I think doing a mini series is always the better option. Um let me see here. Nice feature. Ah. Um
oh, from the news show, the guy from um, not Wet Hot American Summer, Blue Mountain State.
mhm.
Yeah.
uh doing a mini series is always because I mean you do get like I mean even the Marvel movies that's they're movies but it's a fucking mini series.
Of very long episodes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um but I mean even like we've been joking lately a lot of just like how come they haven't made a fucking Contra movie? But I'm like you could do like a really quick one and done on the island, hour and a half in and out fucking action movie. But even that I feel would be like not saying that this is like a rich story to farm from, but I think it would always be better to like let's go the miniseries route, and then that way like not you can incorporate the island, and then you can get to the alien wars where it's like the shits in the city, like you can it just gives you more breathing room. That was my pro. Now, I mean, this is a whole nother different fucking can of worms of live action film adaptations of anime series. That's a whole nother mess in and of itself. But the only thing the main prime thing that I'm getting from it is fucking Death Note, where
Yeah.
that they tried to putting all of that into an hour and a half was dumb because in order to accept the pattern of things that happen and to be able to appreciate like you have to see it play out over and over and over again, like you can't just have it in a movie like once and then it mean anything. You know what I mean? It's just a weird fucking movie at that point. So that was disappointing, but yeah, of course, no, yeah, that's right, that should have been a miniseries instead of a movie.
I mean, Dude, I'm looking at the list of movies that have been released already that are video game adaptations and the upcoming, and I'm looking at most of this stuff, and it should be miniseries. The first Hitman movie with Timothy Olyphant, I actually like it. I think it's actually a pretty decent adaptation. It takes enough liberties with it, but and it doesn't have to be too deep. But that would have worked better as a miniseries. Far Cry would have worked great as a miniseries. Max Payne, Jesus Christ, that probably should have been a miniseries from the get go, or
Well,
a limited run, 3 season shebang.
what you two things. One, what you could do with Far Cry is you can make if you make that a mini series that's an anthology series. Each season's a different game.
Yeah, that
That's
would have been
easy.
fine.
That's
Max Payne
easy.
would have been the same way.
Max Payne. I didn't. Is it weird that I didn't hate that movie? I didn't love it. All right, I'm not saying it's the best thing, but there was something weird enough about it where I'm just like, I kind of like this
the
stupid shit.
the segments reminded me of the graphic novel segment. Like the whole look of it had the graphic novel feel to it, kind of like Watchmen does actually,
Mhm.
in how it's presented. I'm not comparing Max Payne to Watchmen, but that said, it's that same sort of vibe to it. It's not the worst adaptation either, though. Much like the first Mortal Kombat movie, I don't think it's a terrible adaptation. It's campy
No,
as fuck, just like the game is. Uh,
I love the first Mortal Kombat movie. It is ridiculous, but I like it. And Johnny Cage's one-liners are just that alone.
well, the easiest sell in the world.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean,
This is where
House
you
of the
fall
Dead,
down.
though.
House of the
Jeez. Now that's a bad movie that has the girl from Halloween 4 in it, which I forgot. Rachel's
Mhm.
in it, but that could have worked as a miniseries. Like you were saying, just do a different game because I mean they're all campy 1980 late 70s 1980s type of like B movie sci-fi stories, and if you present it as such, you don't really have a problem with advertising it because the people who are going to go see it are going to be the people who enjoy that kind of thing anyway.
Um, I think obviously it gets harder the further back game you're going. Um, like because with the retro game, like nowadays you get full on fucking story, it's more story than game almost. Whereas before, like you really had to, like I said, with Mario, even though they were up to the Super Nintendo era, they still had to fill in a lot of blanks. Um,
Sure.
but like this upcoming Mario movie, that's fine as a movie. I think Mario, that's fine as single dose helping movies. That works. Oddly enough, if somebody were to go crazy enough and somehow work out a feasible script for fucking Mega Man, that needs to be a miniseries. That
Each season could be a damn boss battle just from the
Mhm.
first game alone.
So it like you really kind of just you need to have the right. I mean, this is with anything, but you always just got to have the right person working with the right thing that knows what they're working with anyway.
Which is why I'm going to bring up this adaptation. And we don't get to see a lot of these because we don't live on that part of the earth. But Toho, that makes all the Godzilla movies, made an Ace Attorney film with Takeshi Miike. I think I pronounced that right. Miike? The guy that did Dead or Alive, Ichi the Killer, 13 Assassins, all wild ass great movies. The horror director made the what is being called by Kotaku, which means absolutely nothing. Best video game movie ever. IGN gave it an 8 out of 10. Uh, but got generally favorable reviews on a game about a lawyer, and it worked.
I'm glad that you brought that up because what I'm going to be segueing into is that I found yet another list of the top 10 what this article is claiming to be the top 10 best video game movie adaptations. Um, while I was perusing my list, I specifically like I wasn't I tried to have some parameters. I try to do these things kind of loosely, but like I didn't want animated stuff to count because I think like I'm like we need a live action adaptation. That's the main focus of what I'm talking about because then I would just be talking about that Castlevania show. Um,
Oh, I mean that's
but I didn't want to include any animated stuff. I came across a list that had both live action and animated stuff, so I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna go for this particular list. But I saw that they had labeled that Ace Attorney or whatever fucking movie. I have never played any of those games.
objection.
Yeah, but I know the character from Marvel vs. Capcom 3, I believe they put him in. And like I know the series. I know it exists. And the fact I saw him like I'm like somebody made a fucking movie about that. And then two, the still image was with the dude with the proper hair, like you were saying, and I was just like, son of a bitch, sign me up. I want to watch this.
I
I don't know anything about this other than it exists, the series. I just know that he's a goofy ass attorney. That's all I know about him.
I mean, if you wanted to stop the show right there and throw on that movie, I would have been fine with it. I would have got a refill for that.
But no, yeah, but like I said, ultimately I didn't use that list because it had the mix of animated stuff on it. But because then like you're getting down and they're throwing in the Pokemon series, and I'm like that's not what I'm going for. But I had no idea that that movie existed, and I was just like, holy shit. But speaking of which, let's go ahead and get into this. Let's crack open this list. Now, I'm going by the top 10 best video game movies of all time as of June 2022, and this is from Games Radar. Want to give
Okay.
proper credit source. Um, now, some of these movies I have to admit I have not seen, but I am at least aware of these movies. Starting at number 10, this is one I I don't have a big fondness for this franchise. I've played most of the games and I enjoy them for what they are, but I don't have like a serious love for them. But when I saw the trailer for this movie, I was kind of just I mean, again, I'm not one to be like, it doesn't look like the thing that I like. I'm mad. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. But when they showed the trailer for what was this 2022's Uncharted, uh I have nothing against Spider-Man. I mean, I know his name's Tom Holland, but I
He's
call him
Spider Man.
Spider-Man. I
Which,
have
by the way, proved Quentin Tarantino's point that they'll always be the comic book character.
to be fair, there are other things that he's done that I've seen him in that I like. Even if it was there was one he did an animated thing, I think with Chris Pratt. I'm not sure. I think that's who he did it with, but it was an animated film, so it was just their voice. Surprisingly, it's one of the few newer animated kid movies I got a little teary-eyed over.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so they got some shit going. Anyway, but the main reason, nothing against Tom Holland, but I was just like, I mean, if we're going for like a really young Nathan Drake, like we're talking like the adventures of young Indiana Jones, but with Nathan Drake, maybe you could go that way. Now I know I was just talking about fucking whatchamacallit, the Max Payne movie,
Mm-hmm.
but if I am gonna be that it doesn't look like the thing I like guy, if I can only do that for one thing, because like I said, I have no big fondness for this series, even though I've played the games.
Mm-hmm.
The Sully character, I have that's the bread and butter of the series to me. Like that, I loved that goofy side character guy, and I'm like, we can do better than Mark Wahlberg. All right. We can
All
do
I'm
better.
saying is, if I had been in that temple, things would have been different.
It's just I really felt we could have done better than that. And for that key reason alone is like why I'm like I have no interest in seeing this movie.
I,
It's because they cast Sully wrong in my eyes.
you know, I'm a big fan of the show Burn Notice,
Mm.
and Jeffrey Donovan and Bruce Campbell, before Uncharted even existed, were already doing the Sully Drake thing, with Drake being Jeffrey Donovan and Sully being, and it was the same characters. And I thought that would be the easiest transition ever. Get both of them to play it. Donovan's the right age to be, in his 30s Nathan Drake, and Bruce Campbell is old enough to be Sully. And
Bruce Campbell
guess
do no wrong in my
and I think Bruce Campbell even suggested that because somebody brought it up that, like, hey, y'all basically played these characters on the show. Why didn't they just call you up and say, hey, let's do this? That's still like I'm with you on that one. I will be that guy too, because that's the biggest miscast ever. No disrespect to Tom Holland.
Mm.
Little disrespect to Marky Mark though.
Yeah.
Don't come kick my ass, please.
I will give you a generous tip at one of your burger places, all right? There's no hard feelings.
Hey, I I own movies with Mark Wahlberg. It's fine. I've paid my dues.
Mm. All right, number 9. Again, this is a series. I believe there's more than one of these movies. I think there's like 3 or 4 if I'm not mistaken. But another one that I've not watched mainly again, but at least I have a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that the main reason that that I've not watched these movies is going to appear somewhere else on this list. um, Silent Hill. Now, I've not played a Silent Hill game. I've seen bits and pieces of it. I know who Pyramid Head is. I've seen the crazy fucking nurses and like I know enough about it. But because of another survival horror movie franchise, I was just like, I've already invested enough time in this bullshit. I don't need to I don't need to go over there. Like if and I keep hearing that they're re-releasing or remaking some of the original games and stuff, and that's like I'm like I would like to play that so I could
Yep.
actually see what the fuck this is about. But I feel like it has a much more eerie, creepier fucking story.
It's introspective horror as opposed to the other one that you're talking about. That
Mm,
all of the fear comes from the exterior. Yeah,
right. Okay. Okay.
but the movie is good from what I remember, and they managed to keep it creepy, even though Silent Hill is notoriously the horniest fan base I've ever seen, because they managed to turn Pyramid Head and the nurses into something that people put into their spank bank, so to speak. Go figure on that one.
Yeah, yeah, I've had some friends, girlfriend and her friends do that for Halloween. I was
I
like,
see. I
yeah,
see. You know what I mean then.
yeah. Mhm. Number 8, I did not even know that they had made a movie about this, but apparently this one's weird because on the various lists that I've looked at, I've seen this one ranked very high, and then I've also seen it ranked very low.
Okay.
Um, Yo, Sparrow.
Welcome, Sparrow. Didge, you're absolutely right. I forgot the Sonic fan base is hornier than the Silent Hill fan base.
um, but number 8 is Werewolves Within.
Okay, yeah. I
I
haven't
like
seen
it.
it, but I've heard of
Yeah,
it.
I see that one ranked high, and I've seen it ranked low. So it's a interesting one. But like I say, if you, like I said, I don't know a whole lot. I just know that it exists. Um, and number 7, this one I have seen, and this one I have some fucking opinions about. Um, Number 7 is Mortal Kombat, but it's the wrong one. That should be on the list. I would have even taken if they would have put Armageddon on this shit, or Annihilation. My bad. Armageddon's the
Annihilation, yeah.
game. Annihilation's the movie. Um, but they have put at number seven the 2021 Mortal Kombat, and the only reason you want to watch that movie is for Kano.
That's what I've heard. I still haven't watched it yet, but is that really it? Like
The-
that's the
okay,
selling
okay,
point?
all right. There's two things. There's two selling points. There's two selling points. One, uh, now I'm a boy that knows his MK mythology and lore. Like I've been playing this shit since it came out. I pre-ordered MK2. I was a happy boy. I got the shirt, I got the poster, I was ready to go. Um, uh, that being so, I'm incredibly, while I do have a variety of characters that I thoroughly enjoy, I am very vanilla in the sense that my favorite character of them all is Scorpion.
Okay.
Just because he's got a fucking awesome story. But they do him pretty good. Like there's some good. Unfortunately, he's not the whole movie. He's like the intro, and there's some shit around him that kind of like hovers over the movie, but it's not primarily a Scorpion movie. But and the actor, I wish I knew his name off the top of my head, but the actor that plays him, uh, when he's not wearing the mask, oh, I'm sure it's him in the mask and shit anyway, unless it's like a stunt dude. But the actor that plays him, I see him pop up from time to time, and I really, really, really like this dude. The first time I saw him, he was in some once the later seasons of Lost. Um, he had a very, very quick scene in Avengers Endgame where he gets taken out by Hawkeye, which he's Ronin at that point. Um, but this dude is awesome. I love that actor. So him being Scorpion was a real treat for me. But unfortunately, that's not the whole movie. And the rest of it is and like I like there's there's so much lore of Mortal Kombat. It should be fairly easy to like your only problem should be effects when making this shit, all right? That should be your only real obstacle. Um and it's weird because it's Mortal Kombat, but there's not really a tournament because it's like it takes place before the first because the first in the original movie, the '90s movie, they got you have to win 10 straight Mortal Kombats and shit, and this is the 10th one. Like I believe we're in that scenario, but the entire movie is before the tournament, so this is technically like a prequel to another movie that they probably won't even fucking make. We don't even
This is
get
the
to the tournament.
tailgate.
This is a tailgate. Exactly. The whole movie is that. There is not a single tournament fight in the movie. Like
Damn.
it I mean people fight each other and fuck each other up, but it's just like what are you doing here? Like there's no like all right, round 1, you know?
Fight.
And then uh everything that happened, if I'm not mistaken, gets reversed. So I think they went as far as like even people that fucking died come back to life because they're like this shouldn't happen before the tournament. So they fucking fix it, and they're like we'll see you in the next movie that we're not gonna make.
Then what's the fucking point? Pardon the expression here, but
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, why even have it at that? Well, that kind of sullies it for me.
It's weird, but aside from the Scorpion stuff, the main reason at all to watch it is Kano. Kano is fucking hilarious in that movie. That's all that movie's got going for it. I
You
would have
mean
put, you
you mean the Australian is the best part of the whole movie?
yeah, and I love what's funny
Makes
is
sense.
that you yeah you have to remember too is when the first movie came out, the '90s movie. Uh, all we had at that point, see, that was '94. We probably had Mortal Kombat 3 at that point. I don't know if no, I don't think we had 4 at that because 4 was the PlayStation era, I think. But
and N64 era.
yeah, but they really, aside from like Scorpions Get Over Here or the Toasty or like the or the oohs and ahs, there wasn't voice acting in these games. So what the guy in the original Mortal Kombat movie did, that was Kano, that Australian dude, the ear to ear. That was so well like loved that they adapted the video game character to that because everybody loved that representation so much. Like Kano, I don't think was originally Australian, and like because you don't hear him talk obviously because they're old games, but I like they eventually like once you can start adding lines and shit like that, they turned him into that because everybody loved that shit.
Uh, 2 was 93, and then the first variant of 3 was 95. So yeah,
Oh
that's
shit. Okay.
wow. Okay, I mean that makes sense though. I think even in the web series that came out in 2012, Kano was also one of the better parts of that too.
Hmm. But I don't understand why you'd put the 2021 like you can get away with more effects and violence. I mean, yeah, there's a shitload more blood in this compared to the original, but like you said, like there it's very campy. But what they did that is one of the few New Line movies I will champion, where I'm like, you know what, you did good on this one. Pat yourself on the back. You deserve
we,
it.
we all have our hills to die on. You die on the New Line, Mortal Kombat, and I die on the Cannibal Holocaust hill.
Mm.
That's okay. We all have our things.
But just like the actors that they had for that original were amazing. The Liu Kang, the guy that played Liu Kang was awesome. Johnny Cage, like I said, is fucking great. Basically, like all of the cool, like funny shit that Johnny Cage says in the original, like we're just making that Kano now for this new one. Um, and then the guy that played Shang Tsung in that first one was so iconic as that role to the point where in the newer Mortal Kombat games, DLC, or no, not even DLC, they just brought him in for the North. It's just part of the game. He's the voice of Shang Tsung in the current games.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, because everybody loves it. And there's a skin that is literally him in that black trench coat from the movie.
Okay, okay. Well, that makes sense because yes, he's one of the best parts of it. So
Yeah.
okay,
Because I
all right.
forgot they do have a DLC that's like old like the original actors and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
adding their. But I no the Shang Tsung one, that's just in the game. That wasn't DLC. That's just in the game.
I come to think of it, I remember the trailer for that now because they
Mm.
made a whole big deal that he was coming back.
Miss Veronica Vaughn.
So hot.
um, but wait a minute. No,
What?
Gears are turning again. Wait, that wasn't the same actress as Sonya, was it?
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. God damn
I
it, it happened again.
It happened again. We just got done talking
Because I'm
about it.
sitting there and I'm like, that's a funny thing. I'm like, I wonder why they typed that. And I'm just sitting, I'm like, I'm not complaining because I know exactly what they're talking about, but I'm like, that's a weird random thing I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Because I
See?
believe it wasn't the same actress in the second movie though, correct?
No, they swapped him out,
That's
and the
okay.
alien bounty hunter from the X Files was Shao Kahn in the second one.
Mm, okay. Okay. Damn. Okay. That's I remember liking the first Sonya better than the second one. That may okay. Right. That's good to know. But anyway, uh there's also I don't know if it got made or not. Um but I've keep hearing about it and like I said this may have already been made years ago or it just hasn't been and they're still working on it. But I believe at one point, and this might have been a Japanese only kind of thing, like the Ace Attorney or whatever, but that they were doing a Tekken movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that same actor, the one that played Shang Tsung, I believe he was supposed to play Heihachi. And I was like, that would be interesting because, he's aged since Mortal Kombat. So, like, he's the appropriate age. Um, but I don't know if that ever got made or not. But I remember hearing that he was going to be Heihachi, and I thought that would be fucking cool. But let's see here. Number 6 on the list. Now, I know a lot about this. I know more about the game than I do about this movie. I did not give a shit about this when the movie came out.
Okay.
But number 6 was the Warcraft movie. And all I really remember is now, like I said, I'm not the kind of guy that could watch that movie and say if they fucked it up or not, because I'm not. Like, I just found, like, okay, for anybody that knows World of Warcraft stuff, all right, let me put it, this might help you gauge your fucking knowledge on my level of knowledge is I know that the Lich King was like a important figure at one point, but the better parts of the game at the time. Uh, I had just recently, like within the last couple of months, real I'm like, oh, that was like the hero character from like Warcraft 3 way back in the day. Like it was like his descent into being a bad guy or whatever it was. And I'm like, oh shit. Like I just thought the Lich King was just some cool badass dude they fucking made up at one point. And I'm like, oh no, he's got fucking ties to the old shit.
What? So they went with the Warcraft games that were closer to like a blend of Command and Conquer and Diablo for the story, and not the MMO type deal.
The movie, I don't know what they did.
Oh,
I don't know. Yeah, no, I'm just talking about my general knowledge of the game lore.
oh, okay. I
Yeah.
had a moment there. I was like, wait, did they? Because I'll go watch that shit right now. I love
Oh
Warcraft
yeah, no, if they would have
2
done
and
a
3.
proper like movie about the Lich King, yeah, I'd watch that shit. But no, I mean, the only thing that I can assume about this movie is I know that people who really do like Warcraft and stuff, I think for the most part, this movie didn't go over very well. Um, but you've got the fucking what was it? The Horde. I wanted to call them orcs, but that's mixing shit, and I'm sure I'd get fucking bitch slapped if I said that. But there's the Horde, and then there's what the Alliance. That's like the two big things in Warcraft, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm
I
sure
thought
it's
the Horde was StarCraft. Now I've confused
yeah.
myself. Damn it! Shit.
uh, Regardless, I just assume that it is a very basic war faction fucking
Oh,
movie.
I'm dumb. The Horde is Warcraft. The Swarm
Warm,
is.
yes. StarCraft,
Okay, there we
yes,
go.
yes. All right. Number
Okay.
5. These are movies that I've been constantly told to see, but I have not. Not for any particular reason. I just I've never found myself in the mood to watch these newer Sonic movies. Although I loved the idea of Jim Carrey as Robotnik. Now I don't know how he handles the performance. Like I said, I've not seen the movies, but um, I liked that idea. I'm glad, despite there was a lot of bitching about the whole teeth thing. Which, to be fair, I'm glad that they changed it because it does look it just visually it looks better. But I I've heard that they're actually pretty decent. Like from the people that I talked to that have seen it, they're like, it's not, it's not Schindler's List, but they're like, you won't hate yourself if you watch it. And I'm like, okay,
That's good.
no.
Because most of the game adaptations I tend like Alone in the Dark, I walk away from and say, "Wow, I legitimately won't get that time back."
uh, Number 4. This is where we were getting at for Silent Hill. Would be Resident Evil. Now, I don't I don't want to be too hard on the franchise. But this I mean, I remember that it was a big deal when the first one was coming out. Like I planned days around to go to the theater. Like I went and saw it in the theater. Um, and it's that weird time where there's like, do we lean into characters and shit that are known, or do we try to do our own thing? And like at one point they tried to bring in the original game shit, and it just felt weird. Because you had these outside creations that were only there for the movie, and then like it felt like the shit that should have been there was just kind of shoehorned in.
They they yeah, they fan serviced Barry Burton into one of the movies, and if I recall correctly, they kill him as fast as they put him in. And there's questionable choices have been made with the Resident Evil franchise, but at the same time, if I want to watch or if I want the story for the first Resident Evil game, I'm gonna play the first Resident Evil game because there's files to read, there's stuff that immerses you into the mansion. To adapt it into a movie, you would have to condense it. And have you ever read the original George Romero script for the first movie?
Oh no, no.
So George Romero got tasked because he did that awesome Resident Evil 2 commercial in Japan um, with doing the original Resident Evil movie. And who better than the king of the zombie to do something
Right.
that's main enemies are zombies? And they didn't like the script. They thought it fell too far from the source. But reading the script, yeah, there's some cringy shit in it. But cringy shit can be fixed with a writer to go in and do it. Scrapping all of that, that had Chris Redfield, that had Albert Wesker in it, that had Jill Valentine. It had the characters in the like he didn't play the game. I think he said his son played it and he took notes while he watched it. Like that's what we were talking about earlier. That's the kind of shit you want to have happen. And what we got was an original character, which could have been a good idea, but you know what it reminds me of? Steven Seagal movies. Old ones, not the money laundering allegedly new ones, but the old ones where if you were talking wrestling terms, he was booked strong and he didn't job to anybody. Like he broke everybody's arm, he walked away pretty much unscathed except for executive decision and that kind of thing. That's what the Alice character kind of felt like to me was that it was an OP character in a world that didn't they never really met the way that they should have met, you know?
So, are you saying that Mila Jovovich is the new Steven Seagal? I'm. You're not wrong. You wouldn't be wrong.
I mean, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it might be the female version of Steven Seagal in horror movie action form.
Ironically enough, and I'm not shitting on these actresses at all, because I have seen them do things. I've seen both of them do things that I've liked, but I find it funny that see Mila Jovovich is like once she started doing. I mean, she did Fifth Element. She had her cute little multi-pass role. Lilu, I believe her name was.
Mm-hmm.
But and I'm sure she's done other things too. But really, once she started doing Resident Evil, like she kind of just did that role in everything. like she's I mean you would expect that for the Resident Evil franchise obviously, but then like she did there was the Aeon Flux one, which that one I kind of was all right with, but that's because I like Aeon Flux in general. So but
Sure.
I'm like but so that was what it was. But then there was I think she did a movie called Ultraviolet, I think it was called something like that. But it just felt like a Kmart fucking Aeon Flux, and it's just her being a badass. And then recently, which is another one, I don't know, I don't think it's on this particular list. Making sure, yeah, it's not. But I saw it on a couple other lists, and it was more recent because she did the Monster Hunter movie, and
Well,
I'm just like, here we go again. But what I'm saying is, what I find funny is that another actress that I have a problem with for the exact same reason, where I'm like, I've seen her do good shit, so I'm not shitting on the actress. But if it's like when you see her, you know exactly what role she's going to be playing, is because also that had Michelle Rodriguez in it. And I'm like, you see her in that role, and I'm like, that's going to be the next 12 of her roles right there.
Not everybody can go the route of Charlize Theron, who
Yeah.
managed to be a badass in everything that she has ever attempted, but also have humility and humanity to the characters. Like Atomic Blonde's a great example of playing both sides of that coin, where you are an overpowered badass, but you have moments of vulnerability, and they meet in the way that is meaningful. That I'm not saying that a survival horror adaptation has to do that, but there's emotion in the Resident Evil games. Not
Hmm.
necessarily in the early ones, perhaps, but the itchy tasty note from the first game is a harrowing fucking thing to read. The second one, Leon comes into his welcome party and everything has gone to shit. Like, there are
That's
moments of that kind of thing in those games that the movies missed, because you
missed, yeah.
can't have files in the movies, and that maybe Resident Evil
They
wasn't the
didn't
best.
supplement the magic from the gameplay. That was that going back to our issue. They didn't
That's
supplement it.
that's what
And
it is.
and that's what thing is too. It's like I like, as much as I can dig uh Chris Redfield, I'm a Leon boy. And not from four. All right, I'm not talking four. I'm talking two. Because I love the idea that it's his fucking first day. Like
It,
that
it's
is, it's great.
it's a cliche. It's a cliche too. But guess what? It works because the way it's presented isn't cliched. It's
Hmm.
damn it, it's my first day, but I'm gonna use the knowledge that I have to get through it. Like that. That's brilliant stuff.
It was just great, perfect sequel setup where it's like you got this new character and it's his first day and you're like, holy shit. And then he's got the sister of the main dude from the other one looking for a bro. I'm like, this is as easy, but yet as perfect as you can get
Like,
it.
if they had gone the 1.5 route and Elsa Walker was the character, it still would have worked, because you
No,
would have had two rookies at that point, kind of battling it out in the city, not against each other, but against the world around them. That's awesome. We lost that though. We
we
got
lost.
Jill Valentine with the second Resident Evil movie, but
Mhm.
we also got Crying
Now,
Nemesis.
now, the one thing that this series did, now, unfortunately, they shortchanged it. This is something that they probably should have kept going through the whole series, as long as they would have been able to keep it fresh. I know it wouldn't have been a problem for the actor; it just would have been on the writing team. But they did pull a card that, in my book, if any movie that pulls this card, it's always the right move. And unfortunately, I think they only did this for like two or three of the movies. But I am a firm believer that if you are making a movie and you feel like something's missing and you don't know what it is, you go out and you hire Mike Epps.
Well, damn, you got me there.
It's because I don't care what the movie is. Every time I see him, I'm happy.
He is the perfect comic relief for that.
No.
I mean, yeah,
My
that's.
shit's custom.
But here's the thing. We shouldn't sit this long, because this could be an entire show of itself on why the Resident Evil movies fail to capture
Mhm.
it, and a lot of it is the fans, but also the fact that the movies themselves are not that great. Um, the humor in Resident Evil oftentimes, I feel like, came from it was organic. It came
Yeah.
from the moment that you were in. Um, like when you are in the police station in the East Wing, and the whole crowd of zombies is outside the detective room's door, where all the desks are, and
Mhm.
you have to kill all of them. If you go over to the drink machine, it says nothing out of the ordinary, even though there's dead bodies all around you. That's funny. Like,
Yeah.
that's morbidly funny because nothing's out of the order. But I don't remember there being anything in the movies where it was like, you know, character notices, 10 dead zombies in the on the ground. Everything seems fine here, and just keeps moving on. Like, that's the sort of organic comedy that comes out of it. Not saying that Mike Epps was a bad choice, but
No.
I'm saying that the mark was missed from the get go with that, and what you
Yeah.
ended up with is generic action movie with horror elements thrown in, and that gets thrown out by the third movie where the horror is gone. It becomes Walking Dead levels of late Walking Dead levels of droning on story that at that point you're not really invested in.
The problem I had with that franchise in terms of the movies was is that at its core, the story is basic and understandable. You know, there's a virus that got let loose. I love that scene where it gets thrown in the office and everything gets shut down, check in the elevator. Like that's a great scene.
Yeah,
Um, but the problem was just like the games, but again, you can get away with shit with like this in video games. Um, the craziness just keeps going. And unfortunately, they let the craziness of the story overtake the movie, where instead of trying to keep shit in balance for the movies, they're just like, just, let's make Wesker from the Matrix.
I,
And I'm
oh
not
hell,
saying
it's
he doesn't have elements like that in the game, but I was because like I like Wesker as a character, but in the movies I'm like, this is a little weird. This is you came on a bit strong.
you you turned him into Resident Evil 5 Wesker from the get go,
Yeah,
instead of
there's no
instead of
build up.
yeah, the first one is great. He's a corporate espionage like cutthroat dude. That's awesome. That should have been your starting point, and then work your way up to it, which is what happens in the games. But it was almost like, I know it's gonna sound bad. It's not what it is, but um, in the games it was kind of like you had the slow progression, and in the movies it was like, this is a highlight reel for Mila Jovovich, and everything around it is incidental stuff from a franchise meant to pad the movie because that's what we need to do to finish to get to the end of the movie. It's problematic in a lot of ways because it disregards the fact that, yeah, Resident Evil's not exactly known for character development, but in a way it probably should be if you look at the files and you look at the little hints. Like Resident Evil 2 has a Wesker reference in the evidence room. You
Isn't there a
find a
photo?
file.
And they're
He's
like
got
a
the
group
photo.
photo. Yeah.
There's the group photo in the STARS office. In the evidence room, a cop sees a wounded man running through the woods that they don't recognize, which made sense because the STARS officers were separate from the rest of
Mhm.
them. That he was running away, but he was also collecting combat data the whole time. Like, there was all this little stuff that led up to big moments, and the franchise was like, we're going to do our own thing. And the difference is in doing their own thing, they neglected capturing the magic of the gameplay, but also the groundwork that was already laid for it. And from what I'm hearing, Welcome to Raccoon City overdid it in more aspects than one, and that's why we got what we got.
Yeah. They just I feel that if they just would have stuck with what was already established in the games, they would have fared a lot better. I don't know if Mila Jovovich would have had a career, but you know, and you can take that either way. Um, number three, I saw this movie once, I think when it came out on streaming. This one, I've played some of the games. I don't have a whole lot of attachment to it. Um, I don't. I only remember honestly one scene from this movie, and it is completely inconsequential to the movie. But it was. Let's see. What did it say? What year it was? Not saying it, but I know it's probably at least 10 plus years. The Assassin's Creed movie.
Nah, I never watched it.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm not I think that the thing about, because like I said, with the Assassin's Creed games, I've only played a few and they were the earlier ones, and I know there's that whole thing where it's like when you're the assassin back in time, but then there's the modern day shit where you're in the Animus, I believe is what it's called.
yep.
Um, and they either didn't do it in that movie, or if they did it in a really annoying way. That's the only thing I think I remember people talking about. I watched it, like I said, once, but it was when it came out, and that was a while ago. Honestly, though, surprised that it's as high up on the list as it is. Um, Number two, again, a movie I've not seen, but these games I am very familiar with. And that is the newer 2018 Tomb Raider, not the Angelina Jolie. Uh, whatchamacallit, this looks like, what's her name? But I don't think it is. I'm trying to see if this doesn't list actors or actresses, which is annoying. But
That's the one with Walton Goggins in it,
oh,
I
okay, there
think.
you
Yeah.
go. Now as far as the Tomb Raider stuff, like I mean that I can only hope that they did what they did with the newer version games in the movies, which it looks like it's literally the first game of the new Tomb Raider. Um, Nothing against Angelina Jolie. I mean, she's done some shit that I like, and then the other stuff I just kind of I'm indifferent to. I'm not
Sure.
like high up. She's not high up on my list, but I don't dislike her. Um, but I thought her being Laura Croft in the original movies, I'm like, this is fun. You know what? This works. This is our Lady Indiana Jones, you know, because like I don't know what the time difference between some of the Angelina movies versus Kingdom of the Crystal Skull,
Hmm.
but I'm sure that that debacle just helped her if it was around that time. We're like, you know what, fuck that. Let's stick with Laura. Um, but I believe I only ever watched the first one of hers because I think she did two, maybe three, but I think there's two. Um, but I just remember wasn't what's his name, her dad in that John Voight, fucking old man John Voight.
Yep. She got a real dad to play her dad in the movie.
You know, it's sad that that man has such a full filmography, but whenever his name comes up, all I can see is Anaconda.
It's either Anaconda or Mission Impossible for me.
That's right. And I watched that not too long ago again because I wanted to go through them all, and I think I only got up to like three or four because that was all that was available on streaming at the time.
Yeah.
But no, I liked that first one though. That one was, I forgot that he was in that. Yeah, he was the douchebag. Yeah.
Yep.
But now okay, so yeah, that was number two. Now number one, again, this is a movie I've not seen, but there's a reason. And it's not because I don't want to see it. It's one of those things where I feel like if I see it, it's just gonna, if it goes bad, which I've not heard anything really bad about this movie, to be honest, but I just feel like if it was bad to me, it would fuck up something in my head. And I know that's like, I'm like, I shouldn't put that on a movie, but they have number one as Detective Pikachu.
I mean, I've heard it's good.
I've heard it's good too. Like I remember seeing the trailers and seeing the Pokemon in that type of style and environment. And I'm like, I kind of want to see this shit. I didn't like the idea of Pikachu talking though. That's the only thing. That's another reason why. And then again, I believe it's Ryan Reynolds that does the voice, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it nothing against that. I'm sure that works better than I would expect it to, but I'm just like, I don't want them to say anything other than their name. It would just be weird. Um But that's the top 10 on their list. The only ones, like I said, I really think that the OG Mortal Kombat should have been up there. Um, I think I did go see in the theater at the time only because I was really fucking bored. Was I did see the Dead or Alive movie. That did not need to be on the list.
They should have just done the beach volleyball movie and
That would
called
have
it a
made
day.
way more money. Um, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else that should have been. I mean, honestly, like I said, like I understand that there's a lot of people that are naysayers about it. So I think if you're gonna be fair, maybe put it at 10 or 9, but I think you should throw that OG Mario movie on there because it's fun. I mean, it was Bob Hoskins, right?
Yeah,
So I mean, like you got that going for you. Um,
and
John
young
Leguizamo,
Leguizamo. Yeah,
and then whatchamacallit? Oh, fucking goddamn, Dennis Hopper.
crazy ass Dennis Hopper. We love him.
And there's the whole. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily consider it a battle, but the final shit at the end of the movie where he's going like before he starts mutating and shit. Um, there's just like shit when he's delivering lines with his eyes. I'm like, that dude is so coked up right now.
The cocaine years of Dennis Hopper's career, aka 1972 to his death.
Yeah.
Love the guy. Blue Velvet is still probably the best example of him just losing it. But if you have not seen Apocalypse Now, he's actually has one of the most thoughtful pieces in the entire movie, which is impressive to say the least.
Um, there are a few things that so with The Last of Us, I hope that it sets a new standard of taking care when trying to adapt these things. Now I understand, if you're gonna do some like old retro shit game, maybe they're probably not gonna put as much attention in detail as they are with this. I get that. I get
Sure.
that. But I hope that they will follow this example because so far like I said, the biggest hurdle that I always say is if done right. And so far I feel like it's being done exceptionally right. Um I've mentioned this before, things that I would like to see. Now I wouldn't want it to be done because I think it's very easy to put this woman in the same type of situation that Mila Jovovich found herself in. And I don't want that. And I don't want that style of movie either. But for some reason, I've just got it in my head that I would like to see Scarlett Johansson be Samus in a Metroid movie. I don't know why. There may be a better choice. Probably is. But for some and like I said, and I wouldn't want it to be like a Mila Jovovich because she's done a couple of those movies where I'm like, you're just following in the footsteps of her. Don't get into that trap.
Her or Charlize Theron, because
No.
they both I think have the chops to bring something good to that character.
Yeah. And then of course, I believe they actually are, or they've always been trying to do this. It's just never worked out, but I think they are actively trying to like work this out currently. But I've always joked where I'm like, if you can give me three of those fucking Lord of the Rings movies, there's no reason why we can't have a decent Zelda movie. That one though, you probably go miniseries. You don't go movie.
I
Um,
3-season miniseries.
yeah, you got to have a build up with Ganon. You got to make people scared of Ganon. You can't just have him for like at best 30 minutes of screen time and encapsulate that.
Go the Zelda 2 route, and he only shows up in the credits.
When the movie ends and it says game over and then he shows up.
Oh, 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 oh.
I'm trying to think if there's I mean, I joke about Mega Man, but I'm like you could probably do that like in a roundabout way. Um I think if you did a comedic yet somewhat sports serious, like maybe do like Do maybe like the kind of humor that they did in the Weird Al movie, but apply that like to maybe like a Rocky, and you could do a Punch Out.
Do a satire, and the NFL will hate it, but do NFL Blitz as a movie.
I mean,
And
at
you
that
know
point,
exactly what I mean by a satire, don't you?
yeah. I mean, at that point, you're just making a documentary of the XFL.
Yeah. Can't wait for that to come back, by the way.
No.
We're close.
Um, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else that could be done. I'm trying to think. I know they're gonna do God of War. I haven't read any confirmations about certain details, but that one I hope that they. I think they're gonna start where God of War 4 starts, where you have the boy, because that's what everybody fucking knows currently. But I think that would be a shame. I really think you start at the beginning of Kratos, because yeah, it's gonna take you a minute to get to the story of 4, but a like if the show's done, if done right, and multiple seasons do occur and people enjoy watching it, like the games do, it gives you the extra emotional, you understand it more, like his relationship with his son based on the shit that he did in the original games. Like you understand your character more, as opposed to if you've never played the games and they're starting off just at 4 with the kid, you're like, why is this guy such an asshole to his son? And it's like, there's a reason. I mean, it's not the kid's fault, but I'm like, if you knew the guy, if you knew Kratos, then you'd know. He's not
There's some baggage there.
yeah, yeah, and I'm like, and to be fair, he's actually being really patient.
I mean, the I think the point that we finally got to, well, we were there at the beginning, is that the miniseries is the, if for video game adaptations, is probably going to be the best route. Like sitting here, I'm like, hell, you could do Zombies Ate My Neighbors as a miniseries, and it would probably be the funniest Night of the Comet esque thing that
I'm
you
just
could
imagining
do.
the big baby.
Yeah, I mean, like that would be good. It'd be animated, but Donkey Kong Country too. There's a good miniseries, actually with good lore. Oddly enough, the options are out there for that kind of thing. It's just Ninja Gaiden.
That I'm surprised hasn't been like, you do that, but in a John Wick style. That just makes money right there.
Not that he would do it, but directed by John Woo. I mean,
And like I said, we've been joking. Contra, like that's just your good old fashioned '80s action right there. But like I said, I think you go the route of mini. You could do, like I said, the one and done 90-minute, but I say go to miniseries and include the Alien Wars and shit.
I, if they do a Contra and they do it as a one-off, get Old Man Arnie and Old Man Stallone to do it because that's who
I
it should have been in the first place.
I say you get them, but you have them do a cameo of some sort. I don't know if you make them the main two guys in it. I mean, back in the day, all day, every day. Yes, you were 100% right. Those are the two guys you go to. But nowadays, I think they'd be better suited for a cameo role or like a one episode thing. I don't know why, but for some reason, I'm just imagining him doing this, and I feel like it might work. You got to put a little bit of mass on him though, because he is kind of a skinny guy. I mean, he's got some muscle, but he needs a little bit more. But the guy that plays Steve in Stranger Things,
Oh no shit.
for some reason, I can see him with one of the bandanas on. You know, I could see it. I could see it. Again, there might be better choices, probably are, but for some reason, I'm like, I could see him doing that.
I watched. I thought you were gonna. I thought we were on the same page there for a second because I watched 13 Hours the other day. I was like, maybe John Krasinski can be one of the characters because when he gets in an action role, it it's hard watching him from The Office to
That's
that kind of stuff, but it
I know he
works.
does that. I've not watched any of that stuff, but That is kind of the thing where I'm like, I feel like it. I'm not saying he doesn't do it well because I know that it gets well received, but that would be my issue. I'm like, how he's just too likable to be a badass for some reason. I could see him as Reed Richards. I'm still holding out hope for that, but probably not at this point. But yeah, just as like a fucking in the woods. I don't know if I could see that.
Well,
Um.
who knows? Maybe he'll shock us and well, no, they did say he is going to be in the Rainbow Six movie.
I can see that only because that seems to fall in line with some of the other stuff that he's been doing. So I'm like, I can see that. Um, one last thing that I want to mention, and I was going to mention at the beginning of the show before we got into all this, but I just remembered it. Um, it is I did because you asked if I had any like big comic book stuff to talk about. I don't. It's nothing big. It's small. It's small, but I did. It's something that I noticed that happened. So
Okay.
as I've talked about before, Mr. James Gunn taking over DC seems to be getting things in order. Still waiting for that slate of movies to see where we're actually headed. But a couple days ago, apparently, he had a person in-person meeting with Jason Momoa, the current Aquaman, and literally walking out of the house, Jason Momoa did an Instagram video. Doesn't say any details, but he was screaming with excitement. And the only thing I can think of, I mean, there are a couple of things that I think that they could do with him. I don't think that they should do those particular things, but there is one thing that everybody's been demanding. And it's the only thing I can think of that would generate that type of an emotional response from him. So I'm going to put us in the official Jason Momoa Lobo watch. We are waiting, just going to wait for that announcement. That's what I'm expecting. I don't, there are other possibilities, but everybody wants the man to be Lobo. He wants to be Lobo. He was genetically born to play Lobo. Uh,
Okay.
James Gunn's the type of crazy motherfucker that would do that.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and put us an official Lobo watch. When that actual announcement happens, we will rejoice. The other contenders of things is of course, the obvious is, oh, hey, we're gonna keep you as Aquaman, and I'm like, I don't think you get that excited over that. I mean, that, hey, yeah, you get to keep a paycheck, but I think doing something like that is just gonna create more anger because then it's gonna circle right back around to, well, why did you get rid of Henry Cavill? So I don't think that's it.
Okay.
Uh, Another suggestion was is that they might want him to be Batman. And I just think that, and it's the same thing that I'm like, I had when they cast him as Aquaman. Not to say he doesn't do a fine job with Aquaman. I actually enjoyed that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm like, I'm glad that they made Arthur Curry a badass again. Like in the comics, they made him a badass. And then they cast Jason Momoa. I'm like, too much badass. I'm like, he's too, I mean, you're in the right ballpark. Just tone it down a tad. um, and I would have the same thing where I'm like, he may be all right in the suit. I do not see him as a Bruce Wayne. Batman,
Oh.
maybe, but Bruce Wayne, no. I don't see him as Bruce Wayne. So I hope they don't go that route. But, you know, I would, I'd get excited. It's like, hey, you're Batman now.
You're
um,
Bane now.
like I need a little bit. Despite all the voice shit, I did enjoy Tom Hardy as Bane. Like that was good physicality. Although like I wish they would have incorporated the Venom, but I get it. But I'm just glad that they didn't dumb him down. That was the closest, truest representation of Bane that we've ever had.
He was a tactician in the comics, and he was a tactician in the movie, and
Mhm.
yeah, that's fair.
Uh, the only other thing, but I do not see excitement out of this other than now, if they would have made this announcement instead of Jason Momoa walking out that excited, that would have been me walking out of that excited. Um, but the only other thing that I could see is maybe, I mean, it would be a heavily CG character, but uh the Red Lantern Atrocitus. I'm like, he's got the physicality to be Atrocitus, but I'm like, that actually might be a character you go bigger with. Like you need a man with more mass than Momoa even has for Atrocitus. But I genuinely believe that it's going to be Lobo. I'm not saying it's going to be a movie. That one you make a series out of. That's like that accompanies Peacemaker right there. Um but yeah, so I was excited to see that. I'm glad the man's happy and he's still going to be doing shit. Uh, like I said, one of the few things that I really liked out of the last few DC movies, I did like Aquaman,
Hmm.
but make the man Lobo. He wants it. The world wants it. I'm not saying that the world never gets the perfect fan cast. Every so often we get thrown a bone. Let us have this one.
I mean, if James Gunn really is playing to the hearts of the fans, maybe
Mhm.
this might be the moment.
And I would say this might just be me talking. And again, I don't subscribe to the idea that Marvel and DC are rivaling with each other in the movies. Maybe before in the past, but currently no, because Feige and Gunn, they're boys.
Hmm.
They're like, hey, I got this section, you got that section. Let's do some shit.
Well,
Like so. I
maybe
I I think that whatchamacallit, what was I getting at with that? The rivalry. Oh, but that's what people are saying that oh, there we go. That would be it. If I don't subscribe to the idea that there's a rivalry, but everybody always wanted fucking like I said, dude, we were just talking about Krasinski being Reed Richards. If they don't do that, which is fine if they don't, but if they don't do that, but then they give Momoa Lobo, that's gonna be in the back of mind. We're like, we got what we want on this side. You know what I mean? Like I said, there's not a rivalry and they're boys and they're having fun, but that's something I noticed where I'm like, I didn't get my Krasinski read, but I did get my Momoa Lobo.
I mean, it maybe at this point it's going to be like the two Call of Duty studios. We're going to get good releases from Marvel. Oh, now DC's coming in and whetting our appetite. Oh, now we're back over to and back and forth until our pockets are emptied and our brains are, you know, fried
Mush.
from all of the comic book.
But
Whew.
all in all, I believe, yeah, we went through the list. That's about all I got. Like I said, we on Lobo Watch. Um, I'm trying to think. I know let's see. I believe you got the 29th, we've got a little mini marathon going on, right? Let me see
Yep.
here. Yeah, the 20. Oh, okay. The Shining and Doctor Sleep. Excellent. Excellent. I had things reversed. But okay, yes. Yes. Good, 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 good. At some point, I know we're heading into the end of January, so Christmas is not really in anybody's minds anymore. But I would like to watch Violent Night, so I think in the next couple days I might put that on.
Hell
Because
yes.
I've yet to see it, and I've actually heard nothing but really good things about it.
Same. I've
Yeah,
heard very good things about it actually, and you know what? We did the Killer Santa, but now let's do Santa killing.
yeah.
Eh, yeah, yeah.
But other than that, oh, and I think tomorrow I will pick back up on the pilgrimage. So there'll be some more game action happening on my channel tomorrow. But other than that, that's about all I got. You got anything, sir?
Yeah, I got some preemptive stuff here because we still
Ooh.
me and Ian still have to work out some scheduling stuff here, but the big announcement is that we're crowning our patron saints this year.
That reminds me, and I completely forgot. Isn't Friday the birthday of one of them?
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah, I forgot.
And that particular patron saint will have a Valentine's Day special on the 10th or the 17th. That's what the current estimate is for the Valentine's Day special because somebody's getting married on Joe Bob's Last Drive-In because they paid $26,000 to the charity auction, and instead of doing a big wedding with their friends and family, they wanted to be married on the Last Drive-In. They were in
Fuck yeah.
Vegas last week, I think, filming it. So
Mm,
um, that's happening. Um, but I'm wearing the shirt. Thank you, Severin Films, for selling such an awesome piece of merch. Um, we are going to have Udwidge Finnick month sometime soon to crown our patron saint of beauty and revenge. Uh, After we watched on the 20, I think it was on the 24-hour, we watched The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, which, besides being a mouthful of a title, awesome theme song, so much so that the new Call of Duty, I think, samples it on the main menu. Um, and I went through her library of movies, and she has some gems in there. She's the queen. She's the queen of the giallo, so I thought might as well go ahead and crown her. Um, so we've got Huge Finnick month coming up. We are in talks for our controversial movie month. I kind of already know what it's going to be. Um, Ruggiero Deodato will be making another appearance this year. I think we will not be doing Cannibal Holocaust again. Um, Month of Lead. We have started. We had so much fun doing the Years of Lead last year. I've got another pack of movies coming that will feed that. One with John Saxon in a villain role. So
what were we just watching where I made the joke and like bam out of nowhere out of the water fucking Fabio Testi just shows up.
uh it was it that first movie that we watched, not Double Target, Born to Fight,
Born
the
to
one
fight,
with
yes.
the one with Bayou Billy in it.
Yes, yes. I
Or it might have been Cop Game. They were the same movie basically, just
think
slightly
it was
different.
Born to Fight. Yeah. That one
Uh,
that one that one was awesome.
those will not be included in that month because they're not technically crime films. They're bad action movies in the Philippines. That'll be a whole separate month.
That's our
Um,
Bayou Billy adaptation. The only thing they left out was the plane and car.
but we got the car in in Cop Game, and I think we get the plane in Double Target. So it's it all comes together eventually. So we'll have those months coming, and the YouTube stuff is also me and Ian talked a little bit about before the show. We've got everything is in the planning stages. We just need to get to the execution, and I think this is going to be a fun go of things. As far as what Udwidge Finnick month, I think is going to be before the controversial movie in Months of Lead. I do not know which movies it's going to be yet, but
Speaking of the YouTube, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, look what we got. Something that's not just letters and jumbled numbers and all sorts of crazy shit. We have a YouTube that makes a URL that makes sense. So that's the YouTube there. That's where clips from the show, full episodes, pilgrimage of retro, and everything future coming. That's where that shit's gonna be.
my we'll put my game streams that are also going to be me talking about movies will go there too. Uh, awesome that we finally did, ladies and gentlemen, we got them. So lot of fun stuff coming. I'm overjoyed that we've got all of this ready to rock and roll. So I don't want to say too much, but hang tight. This is going to be a fun year.
It's gonna be a fun year. All right, kids, keep posted in the Discord for upcoming movies and fun shit. And there's the YouTube, like I said, in case you miss anything. And we will see you all next week. Later.